The National Broadcasting Company invites you by transcription to join The Chase. There is always the hunter and the hunted, the pursuer and the pursued. It may be the voice of authority, or a race with death and destruction, the most relentless of the hunters. There are times when laughter is heard as counterpoint, and moments when sheer terror is the theme. But always there is the chase.
To whom it may concern, I am recording these events in diary form prior to my departure for... what? I confess I don't quite know. Suffice to say, it should be an adventure and a fitting climax to the chase I so recklessly entered upon. The chase that led me to the monster. My name is Jeffrey Fairchild, recently a professor of zoology with special emphasis on ichthyology, the study of fish. Age, 47. Height, 5 feet 10, half inches. Weight, 160, with slim frame and small bones. I record these trivia with the thought that they may be helpful in identifying my body if and when I die, and naturally if my body is recovered. Although I must admit that no such thought even entered my mind on that early summer evening when I returned home from my classes and first broached the subject of our trip to my young and very beautiful bride. Georgia! Georgia, my dear, I'm home. Georgia! Darling, why are you sitting here in the dark? What?
Oh, don't put the light on, Jeffrey, please. Just go away and leave me alone.
Georgia, you've been crying.
Do you know why? Because I'm bored, Jeff. Isn't that ridiculous? I'm bored and I'm sated with life in this horrible little town filled with nothing but students and gossipy old women. And what do I do about it? I cry like a baby.
Darling, Georgia, I'm sorry.
Oh, Jeff, it's not your fault. I thought I knew what I was getting into when I married you. You warned me what life would be like for a professor's wife, and I accepted it. I just didn't know how dull it would actually be. How I'd long for just a few weeks in New York or Chicago or anywhere except this.
Darling, you're going to do better than that. We're on our way to Europe.
What?
Yeah. I've just been commissioned to go to Scotland. It's more or less a job of research, but we'll be able to spend a few days in London and Paris
London, Paris? Oh, Jeff, I must be dreaming.
No, my dear, it's not a dream. We leave in 2 weeks. I booked passage. We'll have that belated honeymoon we've always promised ourselves. Now, does that make you happy?
Happy? I'm delirious. Oh, darling. Darling, can you ever forgive me for behaving like such a fool?
There's nothing to forgive, my sweet. Because I love you very much. Very much. I suppose I should have explained right from the start exactly why this sudden bonanza had occurred, but, well, I thought it would sound rather queer and worry her a bit. After all, she was hardly more than a child, just 26 when I married her, and she wouldn't relish talking about so unpleasant a subject as a sea monster. Because that's why I was going to Scotland, to Loch Ness, to be precise. I'd been commissioned to verify, if possible, the recurring rumor that a gigantic sea animal of a species hitherto unknown had managed to enter a Scottish Highland lake through a channel leading in from the ocean, and had brought with it superstition, fear, and sudden death.
We're sailing, Jeff.
We're on our way at last.
I still can't believe it. I don't think I've ever been so excited in my life.
Well, let's get away from this crowd before they smother us. Here, we'll make use of these deck chairs, huh?
Oh, it's like a dream. A wonderful dream. Now, don't pinch me, Jeff. I never want to wake up.
And the best is yet to come.
Oh, darling, I've been so selfish. In my excitement, I never once asked just exactly what you're going to do in Scotland.
Well, to be specific, I'm looking for a fish.
What kind of a fish? Goldfish? Herring? Little old eel?
You'll never grow up, will you? And I'll never want you to.
Very well, Grandfather Fairchild. But I still would like to know what kind of a fish you're supposed to look for. It must be a darling to give us the chance to get to Europe this way.
Well, frankly, I don't know the nature of the fish myself.
What?
Well, it's known to the Scottish Highlanders in the region simply as the monster.
The monster?
Yes. Are you cold, darling?
No.
You seemed to shudder for a moment.
Did I? I didn't notice. But go on, tell me more.
Well, there's a lake in the Highlands known as Loch Ness. It's about 25 miles long and 900 feet deep. And there are several so-called legends connected with it.
What kind of legends?
Well, for one thing, the lake's never been known to freeze. Every other lake in the vicinity freezes up tight during the cold Scottish winters. But Ness remains completely free of ice, and no one knows why.
What else?
Well, there were the bodies.
What bodies?
Well, people who drowned accidentally, and there have been many of them. But not one body has ever been recovered. Usually when someone drowns in a lake that size, the body's eventually washed ashore. But not on Loch Ness.
Oh, would that have anything to do with this monster you mentioned?
No one knows.
Well, doesn't anyone know what the monster looks like? Has anyone seen it?
Oh, yes. Dozens of people. That's just the point. Most of them are down-to-earth, practical Scots who wouldn't lie to save their souls. Yet they all tell the same story.
After how many native Scotch and sodas?
You're skeptical, huh?
Oh, darling, I'll believe in Santa Claus if it means a trip to Europe. But between you, me, and that funnel over there, I think monsters went out with witches and hobgoblins.
Well, all the same, it's quite possible it's something. Some strange, ancient animal has succeeded in entering the lake from the depths of the ocean. He may now be wallowing in the mud, 900 feet below the surface of Loch Ness.
It's getting chilly, Jeff. Let's go inside. I think I'd be very happy with a drink.
Well, the monster was forgotten for a while, at least by Georgia. By the time we reached London, it was really beginning to feel like a honeymoon. We stopped at a nice hotel near Piccadilly, and then flew over to Paris for 3 quick and glorious days. From there, we went to Glasgow, where I rented a car. And a day or two later, we were motoring up through the Scottish Highlands, that fanciful land of lakes and legends where the talk is of the fighting clans, of Bonnie Prince Charlie, and the Campbell-MacDonald feud, and of the battle at Culloden, and the mysteries of the ancient Picts, and of the heather and the moors and Macbeth's blasted heath, and of monsters.
This country's glorious, Jeff.
Crammed full of history, too. In the old days, each clan had its own particular realm, and feuding was the order of the day.
How far up are we going?
Oh, Inverness, I think. That's the northern tip of Loch Ness.
Oh, yes, where our monster keeps house.
Well, let's hope he's in when we call. Hold on, what's this? Another sign, I think.
It says Drumnadrocket, 17 miles.
Drumnadrocket. Well, that's a tiny town halfway up the lake. Now, someone suggested we stay there and make it our headquarters. Good enough.
Well, do you know of any hotel, darling?
Oh, they tell me Drumnadrocket Hotel is a good angler's inn and food's excellent. I think we'll give it a try.
Anglers Inn? Well, you think we were going fishing?
Well, we are, in a way.
Jeff. You actually do believe there's some kind of a thing in that lake, don't you?
So do my colleagues. Or they wouldn't have sent me up here.
I'm almost afraid now.
No, there's nothing to be afraid of. Whatever's in that lake's just a fish, a big fish maybe.
Oh,
but...
Jeff, look at that herd of black goats on the hillside.
Where? Oh, yes. What's odd?
What?
Those goats. I don't see a goat herd around. Seem to be alone.
They look almost wild.
Hmm?
Never seen black goats before. They must be... Jeff, look out!
Oh. Whoa, that was close. I went under the soft shoulder and right off the road.
We're at the edge of the cliff, darling. We could have been killed.
Georgia, look. There's the lake.
Loch Ness?
Yes.
Jeff, it's beautiful.
And strange. Stranger than I imagined. Doesn't look like the other locks we passed on our way up.
No, it's much rougher. I don't think I'd want to swim in it.
No one swims in it, Georgia, not since the monster first appeared.
Jeffrey,
What is it?
there's something moving on the lake.
Where?
On the left, right below us. Oh, Jeff, I'm frightened.
Take it easy. Now, it's just a wake on the surface.
Awake?
Yeah, like a ship leaves.
But I don't see any ship.
Neither do I.
You think something else may have left that wake? I mean...
Now, you're going overboard, darling. Those monster stories have whipped up your imagination. All that is foam, a slight surf made by the wind, that's all.
Oh, it's all your fault. Next thing I'll be seeing ghosts.
But not before dinner. We're only a short way from Drum to Drocket. I'm as hungry as a bear. Let's go, shall we? The Hotel Drum to Drocket was a pleasant stopover, and we were glad to have the chance to relax. There were very few guests when we arrived, and we virtually had the entire lounge to ourselves as we settled down for an aperitif before dinner. The owner of the place was a Mr. Angus McIntosh, a hearty Scotsman with a sense of humor and a feel for the dramatic. He joined us in the lounge as we sipped our drinks, and when he heard what my mission was, he started to make the evening a most interesting one.
Oh, you're searching for the monster, are you?
Have you seen it, Mr. McIntosh?
No, I didn't see the monster, but there are some who have.
So I've heard.
Oh, he's here, all right, in the loch. There's no question about that, man. And the natives hereabouts, they like him. He brings bad luck.
Oh, really?
Aye. They say when you see the monster, disaster follows. And I believe it. And it's the same with the goats. And there I've got proof enough.
The goats?
Aye, the black goats.
Oh.
Aye, they come and go with the Highland mist, disappearing into the heather like wraiths. Aye, I saw them 3 weeks ago, and I forgot the cure for the curse. You see, you must dip your hands in the loch water right after you see them, or you're in for trouble. Well, I didn't bother to dip my hands. And look what I've got for my pains.
Oh, what a horrible scar.
Aye. I pushed my arm through a window pane 2 weeks ago, and it took 36 stitches. It was the goats that were to blame.
We saw the goats ourselves.
You did?
But I'm afraid I don't take much stock in the superstition.
Oh, I'd be careful, Mr. Fairchild, if I were you. Very careful.
Jeff, that near accident we
Accident?
Our car went into a soft shoulder and nearly went off the cliff.
Was it after you saw the goats?
Yes.
And you still don't believe the animals bring an ill wind?
Goats have brought an ill wind long before this, Mr. McIntosh.
Oh, Jeff.
At any rate, I'd like to make arrangements to go out in the loch in a boat.
Well, is it safe?
Oh, aye, it's safe enough. So long as you stay in the boat and the storm doesn't blow up.
And I dare say you'll find the fishing excellent.
Oh, Mr. Cameron, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. McIntosh. I hope I'm not intruding, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about the Loch Ness superstitions. It's all quite interesting.
Mr. Keith Cameron is one of my guests, Mr. Fairchild. Mr. Cameron, Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild.
A great pleasure. How do you do?
How do you do?
Will you join us?
Thank you, but I'm off to do a bit of salmon fishing. My ghillie is probably waiting for me now.
What's a ghillie?
A native boatman. They're wonderful fishermen.
Oh, isn't this a rather late hour to go out in the lake?
Oh, no. It's best after 6 o'clock when the fish come up to feed on the surface. Mr. Cameron got a fine mess of trout the other day, and I'm hoping he'll be able to supply my kitchen with some salmon for tomorrow's lunch, maybe.
I'll do my best.
Are you Scottish, Mr. Cameron?
Scottish descent, yes. I've lived all my life in London, however. Well, I'd better be on my way. And if I sight the monster, I'll set up a flare.
Oh, good.
Please be careful.
You're very kind, Mrs. Fairchild. I have every intention of being careful, I assure you. I have no desire to add another grisly chapter to the legends of Loch Ness.
I spent the next few weeks moving up and down the loch, interviewing the natives who claimed to have seen the monster at one time or another. Their description of the animal varied only slightly, and they all struck me as being sober-minded, truthful folk. There was no question in my mind that something had been sighted on that vast sea-like lake. But although I spent hour after hour scanning the surface of the water from the shore, only the ripple of an occasional white cap and the calm serenity of a fishing boat here and there disturbed the smooth contour of the water.
Are you waiting for the monster to show his scales, Mr. Fairchild?
Oh, hello, Mr. McIntosh.
You'll only strain your eyes trying to look for him this way. He doesn't come up from the bottom on invitation.
Yes, I imagine he doesn't. Oh, this is beautiful country, Mr. McIntosh.
Aye. And the beauty is laced with strong tales. You know, they claim hereabouts to have seen ghost dogs and witches. And sometimes I think half the people are daft. But the big fish in the loch is something else again.
Yes, I suppose so.
Here. I brought a pair of binoculars along this evening. Have a look at the loch and see if there's something stirring.
Thank you. These are powerful.
Aye. A little German souvenir from the war. I was with the Black Watch, Mr. Fairchild. Yeah. See anything?
Just a small boat with 2 people in it. Man and a...
Huh? Something amiss?
I believe the woman in that boat is my wife, Mr. McIntosh.
Oh.
She seems to be with your guest, Keith Cameron.
Well, he's a nice chap, Mr. Fairchild. He's been teaching the lady how to cast with a fly rod.
Here are your glasses.
You leaving?
Yes, I haven't had my dinner yet.
Well, it won't get dark until after 10, and the evening's fine. Maybe there'll be a chance.
Good night, Mr. McIntosh.
Good night, sir. And good appetite.
I kept to my work for the next 10 days, completing my interviews, taking copious notes. But it occurred to me that now I had more to look for than the Loch Ness Monster. Georgia was quite taken with Mr. Keith Cameron. And it seemed to me that she was showing an inordinate interest in the man, for a married woman. I broached the subject to her only once, but it was enough to convince me that my discomfort was not without basis.
Jeffrey, I think I saw it.
Saw what, Georgia?
Your monster. And it's not a monster at all. It's just an enormous carp.
Really?
We were out in a boat about 50 yards from shore when a large fish surfaced and came for my hook. Well, he didn't take the bait, but we had a good look at him. And he was definitely just an ordinary old carp who's outlived his time.
We?
Keith and I, he took me fishing again today. What, Jeff, you're not even excited. Or are you disappointed, darling, because your monster's turned out to be a fraud?
I have only one thing to say to you before we go into dinner, Georgia. You are never to speak to Mr. Keith Cameron again.
What?
You heard what I said. You're to keep away from him for good.
Jeffrey, you're raising your voice. Now, please try to calm yourself.
I am calm. Calm enough to realize that when a handsome young man of 30 meets a charming young woman of 27 who happens to be married to someone 20 years her senior, there can be complications. For your sake as well as mine, I want to avoid those complications.
Are you accusing me of having a love affair with another man?
Don't test my patience, Georgia. I warn you. There are some things a man will not take, even a mouse-like professor who is considered by his wife to be a fool. Who's there?
Mr. Fairchild, the monster's been sighted.
What?
Come with me quickly, man.
Look, the monster. Come along, Georgia.
I'll stay here, thank you.
But, Georgia...
Please leave me
Oh,
alone.
we haven't much time. He only comes to the surface for a few minutes when he shows himself.
All right, Angus, let's go. He led me to the shore of the loch where several natives had already gathered. There was quite a hubbub as they excitedly talked among themselves. The loch was rough, and a storm was in the offing. But as I stared out across the loch, I saw nothing except a slight disturbance in the water that may have been caused by the current.
Here, have a look through my binoculars, Mr. Fairchild.
Thank you.
What do you see?
I can't make it out. First glance, it looked like a strong current. that's all.
Let me have a look.
Well?
Aye, there's something out there, Mr. Fairchild. One of the men behind us said he distinctly saw the neck of the animal above the water. It may have just gone down a wee bit below the surface.
Well, people are leaving.
Aye, we're due for a storm. The commotion on the water's gone. He slithered down to the bottom again.
I wonder if they saw anything at all.
Mr. Fairchild, these people are honest, and they have the best eyes in the county. If they say they saw it, they saw it. Besides, the commotion on the water was no current. The current doesn't go out any farther than 100 yards or so. It keeps close to the shore. Oh, mercy me. Come on, we better get back to the hotel. Come with me.
By the time we returned, the storm was raging and the sky was as black as pitch. I started up to my room to change my clothes, but just as I reached the head of the stairs, my room door opened, and Keith Cameron came out as I flattened against the wall. Halfway down the stairs, he crossed the hall and went up to his own room. And then something happened to me. I felt as though my reason had left me, as though I had suddenly lost all control of my senses. But I managed to keep a calm exterior as I continued upstairs and entered our room.
Did you see it, Jeffrey?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, darling, you're soaking. You were caught in the rain.
doesn't matter. A drink might help, though. Will you join me?
Of course.
Like a man in a daze, I walked to my suitcase, took out a flask of scotch. My back was to Georgia. She didn't see me reach farther into the bag for some strong sleeping pills I kept for emergencies. As she busied herself with her lipstick for a moment, I quickly dissolved 12 capsules in a tumbler of whiskey and poured another drink for myself. Then I handed her the drugged potion and made a toast. To the happy marriage we've enjoyed, Georgia, up to now. Insane? Yes, naturally I was insane. Insane with jealousy and hatred and a sickness in my soul that threatened to crush the life out of me. But first I was going to see that someone else's life would be forfeit too. The pills took effect very quickly. And as her mind became numbed, I coaxed her into leaving the room before she fell asleep. No one saw us as we crossed the empty lobby and went out into the rain toward Loch Ness.
Jeff, where are you taking me? It's pouring rain.
Come with me, Georgia. This is most important. Please don't argue.
Something's wrong with me. I'm going to fall asleep.
You must keep awake, Georgia. This is very important. Here, take my arm here. So follow me, dear. Halfway down the path that led to a boat tied up on the shore, she suddenly slumped, and I carried her unconscious the rest of the way. A few minutes later, we were out on the lake, rowing against the storm, alone on Loch Ness, where no dead body has ever been recovered. The rain and the darkness made a perfect camouflage for my work, and after a while, I stopped rowing and picked her up in my arms, and then I pushed her overboard into the boiling waters. I watched her for a minute as her body floated on the surface. But then, suddenly, my boat began to shake. It was as if some gigantic creature had suddenly gone wild underneath the water and was thrashing the sea with its enormous tail. Then abruptly, as quickly as it came, the turmoil ceased. But when I looked around, Georgia's body had disappeared. Half an hour later, I was back in the hotel lobby, and the first one I saw was Keith Cameron, with a suitcase in his hand.
Mr. Fairchild, I've been looking for you.
Have you?
I'm going back to London this evening, but there's something I want to say to you first.
I'm listening.
Well, I'm afraid I've fallen madly in love with your wife. But she won't have me. I must be honest with you for her sake, in case this ever comes to your attention. I wanted her to leave you, but she refused. She said her loyalty and her love was yours, and yours alone. And that was that.
She said that?
I wouldn't blame you for hating me enough to want to kill me. I'd feel the same way. I've been a cad, I know, and I'm very ashamed of myself, but... Well, Georgia taught me a great deal. She's a wonderful woman, Mr. Fairchild. And I envy you, because her faith and her love will never weaken. Goodbye. And good luck to you both.
I'm jotting down the last of these notes now, sitting in a boat in the middle of the loch. It's early in the morning, and the dawn is coming up clear and fresh. The water is calm, and so am I. Calm enough to realize exactly what I have to do. Life holds no promise for me anymore, but I'm not the kind to end it in a cowardly fashion. I was sent here to do a job, and I intend to finish it. In just a moment, I'm going to invite the Loch Ness Monster to make an appearance. I'm going to slip over the side of the boat and swim half a mile toward shore. If I don't reach shore, however, I can always look forward to joining Georgia. In any event, this will be the beginning or the end of my chase.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this half hour of music on the BBC Live program for a brief announcement. A small empty boat was discovered on Loch Ness yesterday morning containing a man's cap and diary. The cap is believed to have belonged to Professor Jeffrey Fairchild, an American tourist. And the police are examining the diary, which is attributed to the professor, who is presumed to have been accidentally drowned. His body has not been recovered.
In the animal world, there is the hunter and the hunted, hound and fox, hawk and sparrow, chicken and worm. But who is to judge precisely which is the pursuer or the pursued as we enter the chase? The Chase was created and written for the National Broadcasting Company by Lawrence Clee. Heard in the cast were Nelson Olmsted, Andrea Wallace, Stuart McIntosh, and Ivor Francis. The Chase is directed and transcribed by Fred Way. Fred Collins speaking. Next week, a man finds himself pursued by a fate more ominous than any he could imagine in The Chase.
Tonight, listen to Bob Considine on NBC.